Full time here, and it's Arsenal nil, Chelsea 1. A really, really disappointing result for the Gunners. I'll start with a really irritating stat pointed out to me by my colleague Gary Hayes. Victories against Arsenal now account for 21% of Chelsea's entire Premier League points tally for the season. Without those 6 points, they'd be 1 point off the relegation zone. We are keeping them in the Premier League. Infuriating, galling, so frustrating. Arsenal came into this game hoping for a win that would take them back to the top of the Premier League table against a side, 14th, 15th in the Premier League. Whoever that opposition is, Arsenal, a side with title aspirations, ought to go and win this game. And they found a way not only to not win the game, but to lose. And yes, the circumstances were made difficult by the sending off, but let's talk about that. Per Mertesacker dismissed for bringing down Diego Costa. Now, did Diego Costa dive? Did he make the most of any contact, if there was any at all? It looked like there wasn't. Yes, he did. However, if he leaves his foot in place, he gets brought down. Mertesacker is isolated, he's exposed, he makes that challenge. If Costa doesn't dive, he's fouled, in my opinion, that he would go through him anyway. It's going to be a red card regardless. I don't think that doesn't make Costa a despicable character, someone who I absolutely can't stand, and who worryingly feels like Didier Drogba reincarnate at times with the kryptonite-like effect he has on an Arsenal defence. But there were so many mistakes in the build-up to that goal. Arsenal's midfield were well out of position. Flamini and Ramsey didn't seem to be at it all day, to be honest. Mertesacker didn't seem too aware of Costa's arcing run, which I thought was very clever. At the end of the day, Chelsea have got a centre-back of their own who's got no pace, John Terry. But they protect him so much better than we've protected Mertesacker today. And we paid the price for it. And once the red card happened, you feared for us. Then I suppose the other major pivotal point of the game, the withdrawal of Olivier Giroud as a substitute. Arsene had to bring a defender on. He brought on Gabriel to resume his little duel with Costa. And he had to bring off an attacker to do it. And he chose Giroud. The crowd here were furious. They were up in arms about it. And I suppose that's understandable because you think of Giroud, he started the game well. He was bossing the two centre-halves for Chelsea. He's in a good run of form. He offers a threat at set pieces and a good defensive cover at defensive set pieces too. And Arsene chose to withdraw him. I'll be honest, look, Joel Campbell's been in great form. But I think he would have been the man who came off for me. Others have suggested Theo Walcott, perhaps so. I mean, Theo Walcott was captain today, celebrating 10 years with the club. Surely this was a strategic rather than a sentimental decision. Surely Arsene thought, well, the pace of Walcott and Campbell could hurt Chelsea. With 10 men, our best chance is to sit deep, look to hit them on the break. Ozil operated as a false nine, trying to find those wide players, but it didn't work. And in hindsight, it was the wrong call. Walcott had a bit of a nightmare day, all told. His first touch was off, and he was caught offside far more often than a player with his speed ought to be. He's so quick that he can afford that extra yard and not take a chance, and yet time after time he was offside. And even when he did get the ball, his touch was all over the place. So not an occasion to remember for him. And a really, really frustrating day for Arsenal. I think we had one shot on target in the end. Alexis came on, tried to rouse things, but he looked rusty. Played a couple of big crossfield passes that were, nowhere near his best. It's a really difficult day. I mean, Cesc Fabregas had the run of the game. That will irritate Arsenal fans, I'm sure. And a lot of it was to do with the amount of space he was afforded in midfield. Arsenal down to 10 men. And when you're down to 10 men, you're effectively playing a 4-4-1. It becomes a game that's all about your midfield. And Arsenal's was nowhere. Ramsey and Flamini, I think, have been getting away with murder in the middle of the park. And today, we sort of paid the price. We missed Coquelin badly, and he's back in full training. You wish he'd been fit enough to play today. But he didn't quite make it. I mean, the sooner he's got to be back in at the weekend, hopefully, get some match practice under his belt in the FA Cup before returning to Premier League duties. So where do we sit now? Let's have a look at the table. Third place, 3 points off Leicester City, who come to the Emirates in a couple of weeks' time. Look, it's no disaster, but no win in the last 4 league games now. Well, sorry, 1 win in the last 4 league games. And some troubling signs. And I think most frustrating of all was that this was a game where Arsenal had a chance to prove that they were psychologically tough enough to assert themselves against a Chelsea side who've had the upper hand in these battles in recent years, and yet they didn't do it. And yes, the sending off didn't help, but that's our own doing, really. I mean, I know a lot of blame will be apportioned to the referee, but I felt in the second half he was very generous to Arsenal at times, gave us things that were baffling. I mean, I thought Laurent Koscielny ought to have conceded a penalty, and there were several other occasions where I thought the referee was looking to even things up. Ultimately, I think while Costa did dive, the red card would have come about regardless. I haven't talked about the goal. We were sloppy at the back, but then that can happen when you are forced to make a change, as we were. Really disappointing day. The FA Cup's coming up next, and obviously that's been a good competition to us in the last couple of years. Hopefully it can raise the spirits a bit, because that was not fun to watch. All right, cheers.